Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How does this sound?
It sounds fantastic.
Great. All right. I'm using a mic here, so we're
Right on.
good.
Pleasure to meet you, man. Thank you so much for taking the time.
I'm glad to be here, Rob.
Now,
Thank you for having me.
my pleasure. The connection ended up being Hank Sachs, my agent, who
Okay.
and he's the one who hipped me. Do you know Hank?
I don't, I may have met him once, but I can't say that I do, but I guess he's friends with our booking agent, Paul Lohr.
There you go. Okay, so that he hit me to it and hooked it up. So I really appreciate you taking the
Great.
time. And I know your time is limited, so I'd love to sit and chat, but I'm just going to go right into it.
Let's go
It
ahead.
it's all pretty simple stuff. We're just
Okay.
talking about the debt a little bit, man.
Okay. I love it. That's great.
All right. Okay. Okay. Good morning. I am here today with Bob Crawford, bass player for the Avett Brothers, who I am just meeting for the first time. Man, pleasure to meet you. Thank you for being here.
Big fan of yours, Rob, and I'm glad to be here.
Awesome, man. So much. I really appreciate it. So you're home, North Carolina, right?
Yes, sir.
And in
Yeah.
Raleigh? Did I get that right?
Yeah. Well, we're between Raleigh and Chapel Hill.
Right on. And how you been staying busy during this insane time we've been dealing with?
Well, I mean, I've been extremely busy. The band we just started getting going again, this past, I guess June, the end of June, we started our year, and it's been a fuller year than I expected it would be. If you would have asked me in March what I thought 2020 would look like, I would have said that well, by the time people get vaccines, we're looking at September. If we
Right.
get September, October, November, and it'll be a great year. It's actually the opposite, right? Like we had that brief window in May where things looked like they were really turning around, and we had, because of being outside and the safety that offers us, we've had a great summer, and now the hesitation is going inside.
Yep.
Like, we don't know what to do about that, so we're trying to make some decisions about that as we speak. And I think we'll do some shows and we won't do others, and it's just we just hope 2022 we can finally get some stability.
I hear you. At the same point, back in June, we made all these grandiose plans for the fall. We'll do a full indoor tour. We'll start here just like normal. And now we're picking and choosing what's safe to do. Same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also noticed you have a podcast.
I do. It's called The Road to Now, and it's a history podcast. And we focus on mainly American history. And it'll be often political history, but we'll do sports. We did the history of golf. We've done history of NASCAR with Kyle Petty. And so our goal with The Road to Now is to kind of look at how we got to this moment, whatever the topic. Like, how did we get here? Because we know that history is contingent on events, and it is not predictable. We take for granted that we're in the situation we're in. It was inevitable. All things were inevitable, right? Oh, World War II was inevitable. Vietnam War was inevitable. But what you learn when you study history is nothing was inevitable, and we can't really predict the future. Historians are terrible predictors of the future, but we do a good job at trying to piece together the past.
Wow, that's great. So you're definitely keeping busy. And I know you have family as well.
Yes.
You grew up in New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit how you got started in music.
Well, I grew up in New Jersey, so I liked Bruce Springsteen from an early age. That was kind of went along with the territory. I'm from just outside of Atlantic City, and he was from Asbury Park, and that was almost like 45 minutes away, maybe an hour away. And when my sister was a fan, but I'm 50 years old this year, 84 when Born in the USA came out. I already had some familiarity with him, but I was really into music at the time, being like 13 years old, and just went in full bore, and I wanted to play guitar so I could play Bruce Springsteen songs. I started it at Born in the USA, and I went backwards in his catalog. And the first song I tried to learn was Growing Up on the guitar. And that's really through him is where I, you know, wanted to be in a band and wanted to play music. And also through him is where my music broadened, you know,
Right.
because I would read about him and he was into Roy Orbison, was influential for him. So then I'm 15 years old, going back and learning about Roy Orbison or Elvis or even in some weird ways like Peter Gabriel. I got really into Peter. This is before So came out. I got really into Peter Gabriel and I went back into his catalog and worked up from there. And you know, just how it's like from one artist you can connect and find a whole world of music that was kind of unexpected.
Just by tracing the history, for sure. So did you just pick up a guitar and start teaching yourself? Do you take lessons?
No, I did not. And it took me a long time to learn. My mom, you know, I was at this age where I wasn't really good at sports, and I would come home from school and I would just, you know, make a plate of nachos and sit there and watch TV. And my mom knew something had to change. So they got me a guitar for Christmas and signed me up for lessons. And that's where I started. Yeah. And I didn't just pick it up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But you took it though. I mean, you ended up studying in college, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, I did, because
You went full bore.
It was more of a desire than a natural ability. My will to learn was superior to my clumsy just, you know, I just wasn't good, but I was driven. I was
Right.
driven. And so over a period of years, I became acceptable and have prospered, you know, 20 years of playing bass with the Avett Brothers. Well, I can do that.
Right.
I can do that, you know.
So you got Peter Gabriel, and you mentioned, and Springsteen, so Little Steven, and that. Who were some of the other guitar influences early on?
Well, so yeah, and I'm glad you say guitar, because I played guitar and up until, you know, 2001. Well, early on, it was Springsteen. David Gilmour was a big fan of his style and his tone and his he can go fast if he needs to, but he's more about the melodic character of his style,
Right.
and his just the beauty. You know, even though he's so blues influenced, he just got this really big triumphant sound, you know.
Yeah.
To out of his guitar. So I always loved his work. But I was in a weird place, because when I started, the same time I started under the influence of Springsteen, I was freshman in high school, and then I became under the influence of punk rock.
Right on.
And so it's so weird, because I was taking in, and I always loved pop music. I mean, you know, growing up, I always loved pop music. But then I was getting this influence of Clash, Ramones, Husker Du, The Damned, The Smiths, like all this other stuff was coming at me. So I think as a musician, what saved me, or what made me continue on in spite of my lack of natural ability, was this punk rock ideal that it didn't matter.
Right on. Just go for it.
Matter.
Right.
Just go for it.
That's so important though, because it, you know, not only it just informs us as a musician. The more you know, the more genres you're into, the more that informs, not necessarily that you're going to play that way, but it informs you psychologically how to approach an instrument, just knowing all those different genres.
Yeah. And knowing that everyone didn't know what they were doing. Nobody knew what they were doing when they started. You know, right. It's like they've, you know, we talk about Jerry Garcia. It's like, you know, he created he created a style of his own by trying to mimic the people that he was influenced by. But, you know, at some point it was him. And so he kind of created his own style. And I think what punk rock did was give license to everyone to like you said, just kind of jump off and just, you know, grip it and rip it as
grip it and rip it. Using I'm a big golfer, so I'm all over that.
I'm a big golfer too, Rob. I love
Excellent.
and again, no natural ability whatsoever.
I'm terrible, but I love it.
It's awful, but I don't, and I go through phases with it, and I'll spend, do you play on the road?
All the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that, I got a set of clubs, they're in the bus,
Mine too.
and I might go 3-4 days in a row playing.
Yep.
Because our listeners here will know that what do we do right in the day? We can be constructive or we can be destructive.
I call my golf clubs my sanity keeper on the road.
Absolutely.
They are my sanity keeper, and I will play every day off and a lot of show days as well. I'm a junkie, man. It's a good drug to be addicted to.
What's so funny about it though? But because you can make progress with music. You can get better, right? And you can control. That you do develop a bit of control and a bit of patience, and you kind of, when you're learning a song, there are only so many molds out there for songs, right? And so you kind of, the more you play, the longer you play, you can be playing a song you've never heard before, but it doesn't take you long to figure out this is how this thing's going to move. I'm going to go from this major chord to this minor chord. I'm going to go from the 1 to the 5 and all this stuff. Golf, I feel like no matter how much time I spend with it, no matter how much study I put in, I have no control if I'm going to shoot in the 90 in the high 90s, which is like really good for me, or in the the 110s,
sure, man,
or above. I have no control.
It's a fickle mistress, I'll go out one day and shoot 85, and less than 24 hours later I'll shoot 97. Just there is no control at all, and then you get in your head. You don't know. We could go on golf all day.
I'll say one last thing about golf. I believe it's an MRI. It shows you who you are, right?
Oh yeah.
It shows you where your trigger points are, like emotionally and psychologically, and the strength of your mind, your endurance. Because when I'll go through days where I play really bad and I'm ready to break the clubs in half. And then I go through days where I'm playing really bad and I'm like, the victory is finishing.
Yes.
The victory is finishing. Even if it's a hole, it doesn't, like if I'm at 7 here on the green, I don't care. If I survive this outing, there's a victory in that. So
it used to be, it was so important. I got to play good. And now it's just, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate to get out there. All right. Let's go straight to it. We honestly, I should have a golf podcast because I could talk about it all day long. Yeah. So how old are you? Where are you? How did you first get turned on to the Dead?
I'm 50.
No. How did you first get turned on to the Dead?
Oh, okay. Well, so there were glimmers of the Dead in high school. So we're talking about 87, Touch of Grey and Dark comes out. But even before that, I remember being at friends' houses and hearing Go to Heaven. Of course, I always knew Uncle John's Skeletons in the Closet. It just kind of classic. I grew up with classic rock radio. So there was that was always there. It's, there's a time, you can't remember a time where you didn't know some of these songs, like sure. the Skeletons in the Closet songs, Box of Rain, Uncle John's Band, Ripple, Sugar Magnolia. But then the turn came probably post Touch of Grey, really, where I really got bit by it. Maybe around that time, maybe 87, 88, where I really got into it and started going to shows. 90, but then 92 was when I really started going to shows.
You use the term.
Yeah, go ahead.
You use the term "the turn," which I love, and then you use the term "I got bit by it." What was it? What bit you, man? What sucked you in?
I do remember a day in the waning of high school. So the waning days of high school, which was probably 89, and friends' parents go out of town and you hang out at that person's house all weekend, and listening to, a few albums, probably Go to Heaven and Blues for Allah, and just being, and not being bit by it yet, but being like, this is a great place to be. This is a great vibe. It was just really relaxing. And it wasn't like we were partying so hard. It was none of that. I remember like a Sunday afternoon and just hanging out, chilling, sitting in beanbag chairs and just listening, and just being like, there's something here that's really nice. But as far as being bit by it, and I could use the same analogy for golf, and I have, that's when you get rid of all your other CDs or your music, because you're just going to listen to the Dead forever. That's all you're going to listen to is the Dead, because why do you need anything else? Right. Which is kind of silly, which I've, of course I recant that.
Sure. But when you're in that moment, that's it.
But when you're in that moment, yeah, you're like, and I remember people coming to me a few years later, offering me their Nirvana CDs and their Alice in Chains CDs because they had just gotten into the Dead. And, so I don't think I ever personally got that extreme, but that's all I wanted to listen to. And then, Rob, you'll remember back then it was about finding the bootlegs.
Yeah, man. All on cassette.
Which kids today will take for granted.
Sure, they just press a button and go to the archive now.
Man, you would go to a show. I remember going to the Giant Stadium in '92, and then in the ensuing weeks trying to find that show, and going here, going there. This guy might have it. This guy might have it. Oh, here's some 77, because you need a copy of these 77 shows. These are just incredible. And just trying to find shows, and just being turned on to, once you get bit, you get in the door, then you're listening to you're beginning to acquire some bootlegs, and you're saying, wow, 87 with Brent was really different than 81, and these things sounded so different, and Keith is so different than Brent, and and then there's this Vince Welnick stuff, and it just you begin to realize that this band had one band, many lives.
Yes, for sure. And back then, like listening to those cassettes, then people would get, first of all, I remember people having the ads in the back of Relics, looking for cassettes, looking for bootlegs. But a lot of the stuff we would get from the really older stuff, the 60s and the early 70s, it just sounded so bad what we would get, that band wasn't anything I would be into at that moment. Later on, when we start to really hear what they were doing back then and hear good quality tapes of that, you're like, oh my God, it's a completely different band. Equally as impressive, maybe more impressive, but completely different.
Well, yeah, because I remember hearing, I knew that I just knew Bill Kreutzmann and Mickey Hart were the drummers. And then I remember hearing a bootleg from the very early 70s, maybe the late 60s. And I'm like, man, those guys sound incredible on this. And my friend said, this is just Bill. This is just Billy. This is before Mickey. And you're like, oh my gosh, he was insane in that period.
Yeah.
And of course, Pigpen, again, it's a whole different band. We used to always say it was Pigpen's band at that point, and people can argue about that, but it was a blues band. It was a different group. Man, was it King Bee? Man, so I remember discovering King Bee and some of those covers that he would sing, and just, then you have, so it's like when you get into it, it's not as it first appears, and the deeper you get into it, there's these layers and layers and layers and layers. So you really could spend your whole life with this band.
It's 100%. It's interesting to hear you talk about the drummer and the layers and layers, because at that point you're a guitar player, but it doesn't sound like necessarily Garcia was the only reason that you were way into the Dead.
No, but once I did get, so this was the turn. This is like for me playing these more punk influenced bands to playing, just wanting to play the Dead world music, the jam, what we would know today as jam.
Right.
which I did so I move. So I slowly make my way through college after flunking out of community college, and then going this is the 92 time period where I'm not saying I'm on the road with the Dead, but I'm going every week, right? I'm to Buffalo, I'm to Giant Stadium, I'm to RFK, I'm out to Buckeye Lake, Ohio. So I'm gone a lot. People are starting to worry about me. I'm asking for a lot of time off. And I quit. Yeah, I quit school, and then I'm working and I'm working at Sizzler, and I'm working with this guy goes to the state school in my town. And he says, man, you need to, and he's ahead, and we go to shows together. We become good friends. And he says, man, you need to go back to school. You need to go to Stockton, Richard Stockton College of New Jersey, which is now Stockton University, which is its own podcast probably. But he says, you need to go to Stockton. I was like, well, I flunked out of community college. I can't get into Stockton. He's like, no, he's like, take one class. You can take one class. I guess what we would say auditing the class.
Right.
And then if you do well, you can get on a path to get in. And so on his advice, I take a class, I do good. I take another class, I do okay. And they accept me. So I go to college. I ultimately settle into radio and television, which we had no TV department. It was all radio. But I get an internship with the local ABC affiliate, the Philadelphia ABC affiliate, who had an office in South Jersey. And the guy I interned for says, you need to drive south, because that's the up and coming. This is 96 now. We're talking about 95, 96.
Okay.
He says 96. He says, the Olympics are in Atlanta. You've got to drive south. You got to knock on doors, and you got to hand out resumes. That's how you're going to get in this business. South is the NASCAR, banking. The South is the up and coming market. So I pack up my station wagon with, won't say all my possessions, but the ones that mattered the most.
Right.
And I literally drive south, knock on doors, and I got work in Charlotte, North Carolina, doing film production, just like fetching coffee, sweeping floors, painting walls, running errands, that kind of stuff. And I settled down in Charlotte, North Carolina. And the local music scene there was so vibrant and rich compared to South Jersey, which, we had some places that supported local music, but it was just in the South, it just seemed more.
Right.
There was just more. There were more places to play, more people that would go out. And this is the beginning of the jam period, right? The Horde tour is probably starting to kick up now, and Fish is out there for sure. And I fell in with a bunch of guys there, and we had a band, Room 454, and we played jam music. We did Dead covers and Dylan covers and original songs, and that's what I wanted to do up until when I eventually went back to school to study music a couple of years later, and then met Scott and Seth.
When you met Scott and Seth, you had just picked up the bass, from what I understand. I mean, the bass was a new instrument for you when you meet Scott and Seth. So at that point Jerry and Bob, musically speaking, and you've also studied jazz at that point. So are Jerry and Bob a bigger influence on your playing than Phil are at that point? Whether it's physical or psychological.
So Rob, this, right? The instrument you play is what you hear when you listen to music.
Right.
It's what jumps out. It's like not the only thing you hear, but it's the thing
it's what you gravitate towards. Sure.
Yeah. And so here I had my whole life hearing guitar, whether it's the rhythm track or the lead track, or how did they get that rhythm? What's that, 2 or 3 acoustics playing together, or man, that little solo part here, and they added this little thing here. You're hearing that instrument. So I didn't start hearing the bass until probably months after I started playing the bass.
Wow, man. Well, which leads me to a great and really interesting, in my opinion, question, because with the Avits, it's an Americana slant. It's Americana music, which I love so much. And you're playing primarily upright, a little bit of electric, but majority of upright.
Now I would say, depending, okay, because for your listeners who don't know, we have a lot of songs.
Yeah.
And we don't do now 2021, and I think a lot of fans weren't really happy about this for a while, but I think they're getting better with it. But our decision was, let's not mix up the set list too much, because we haven't played for a year and a half.
Sure, makes sense.
So, but the thing I was always so proud of, or what I always felt like, this is what we share with the Dead, because we're not jamming all night. We're playing songs, right? We're playing songs. But we always mixed up the set list, because we have over 100 songs that are at least available to struggle through. If not 70 or 80 that we can sell, as my son would say. I'm going to sell this I could sell this wrestling move, he says these days. He's like, I can sell that. I could sell that. But so we can sell a lot of these songs, and then there's a smaller bunch, maybe 40, that we can play well on any given night. So we always would mix up the set list. I mean, there are 2 or 3 songs we probably play every night, but we would always mix up the set list. And it started out where we made the set list on stage, during the show. Right. And then at some point we started making it 20 minutes before the show.
Just have a little bit more flow to it.
Yeah. We began to realize, like the Dead, that we can do this combination of songs. We could do this combination of songs. These work well. We would try that stuff.
Right on.
So when 2021 hit, we said, we haven't been doing a lot of this for a while. So let's just kind of keep it stable. Let's get back in the mode of just doing this. And there was a comfort. Now as the years gone on, we have sorry about that.
No worries.
As the years gone on and we've gotten more comfortable, now we're mixing it up. Mixing it up more. But I don't remember why I started talking about this. But
we were talking about playing electric and upright.
Right. So some, depending on the set list, I could be 50-50. Okay. I could be 60-40 electric these days. I could be 60-40. Last week, I remember there were a couple of shows in a row. I was like, man, I'm playing the upright all night, and that hasn't happened in years. So it's just depending on what's called.
The music you guys are playing, with purely Americana, for lack of a better term, on my if that's, I hope I'm not denigrating it by any means.
That's how I would describe it to someone.
So in the music you're playing, the bass lines, it's a lot of root and fifth, and it's very much on the downbeat, which is like the antithesis of Phil Lesh's playing.
Yeah.
So how do you interpret Phil's style? And is there any of that you can bring with you to the stage? Did you catch that?
Right. So yeah, I did. You broke up a little bit, but I think I got it.
I'll ask you again.
Okay.
How can you, that's the antithesis of Phil's playing. So how do you personally interpret Phil's style? And is there any of that you can bring with you to the stage?
So let's think about guitar players who played bass. And now it's been 20 years, so I'm a bass player. I'm not going to say I don't play I don't play guitar anymore. So I am a bass player. But for me, loving jam music, loving bluegrass, which the bass is very similar to what I play now, but loving the lead instrument, it was always hard for me to lay back, right? That was always really hard for me. And if you listen to Mignonette, any of our older albums or older recordings, when it was 3 of us or 4 of us, I'm all over the place. And that was good for that time. And that was me, right? Interpreting all the things that influenced me, right? More guitar players than bass players. It's funny, like, I guess I've never looked this up to confirm it, but I was always told that Stephen Stills played bass in those Crosby, Stills and Nash albums.
Yeah, could
And
be.
if you
I don't
listen
know.
to them, like Sweet Judy Blue Eyes or Carry On, or the bass is all over the place. It's moving. It just makes sense that a guitar player played this. But what has happened, the band has grown from 3 to 4 to 7.
To 7, right?
More people, the less you need to do. More people, less space, right? I have grown from 30 to 50 and have matured on an instrument I just started playing, when I started with these guys. And so rather than me, like I used to try to fit as much of the Phil influence as I could into what I was doing with those guys, just the movement.
Mhm.
And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. What I have come over the past, I'd say 4 years, to accept and love, and now I'm to the point where I'm like, I'm actually loving it, is trying to just put all that away. I want to play obviously what's suitable for the song, but I want to be selective where I move. I want to be selective with my fills. I want to play long notes that hold, that sustain. I want to blend notes into other notes. That's the trick. And that's just kind of created me to be much more relaxed on stage.
Is a lot of that then just like hitting on the one and letting that hold for the whole bar?
It could be, yeah, it could be.
Right
And
on.
think about no hard feelings. That's all you need to do.
Right. Sure.
That's all you need to do. I remember watching John Prine play. We were so fortunate to play a few shows with him and talking to his bass player. And after one of the shows, and the realization that I kind of came away with, people are coming to hear these words. They're coming now, 20 years in. In 2003, it was about shaking your butt on stage, spinning the bass. Everybody's jumping up and down. We're rolling around on the ground, picking the bass up over my head. We're just sweating. It's like going out there and trying to run a sprint for 2 hours.
Right.
I think now, and I watch Willie, again, being so fortunate to watch Willie and his band, night after night play. And it's about letting the songs kind of take the lead.
That's a beautiful, just natural maturation process.
Mm-hmm.
That's
very much
awesome.
So.
I'm stopping for a second. I only got like 20 minutes left of you, and I got so many things. Okay. So I'm going to skip around a little bit.
Sure.
Because where am I going to go next? All right. Are any of your bandmates Big Dead fans?
They have grown to be greater appreciators of the Dead.
Is that because of you?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I think to some extent it is, but I think years ago we did, and this was one of my top 5 things we ever did. We did a Jerry Garcia tribute with Warren Haynes, and we basically folded him into our band.
Oh, beautiful.
And we recreated a Jerry Garcia show. And we were offered to, somebody came to us to do that. And the guys did it because of me, for me, because of me.
Awesome.
And we made charts. We found the versions of the songs that we were going to interpret. And we made charts. We made books, like songbook. We've not done this for our own record. We've only done this. We've done it minimally. But we invested from August. We played in the end of October or September. No, end of October. And we played at George Mason, was where we did the show. And we started rehearsing in August. We would do just Jerry rehearsals. And these guys took it so seriously. And for a while, we folded some of those songs into our sets. Like Forever Young, we played for a year. Mission in the Rain.
Oh, yeah.
We played for a year or two. And I still believe, I don't know if the Deads plays that song. I don't know if anybody plays that song right now. I feel like we should be we should own that, meaning own it as in have it be a standard of our repertoire, and maybe it'll come back at some point.
It's one of my favorites to play for sure. We don't get to play it that often, but I love it.
Yeah. So those guys have and on their own, they've grown a deeper appreciation for the Dead. So
Do you guys ever have a chance? I mean, obviously not during shows, but at sound checks or rehearsals, do y'all ever just let it go and take it out and jam?
rarely.
Hey, have you got them to that point yet? Where you let's go.
I push and I push and I push. And so sometimes it comes up in the weirdest, like on stage, it comes up like in the weirdest places where we'll do things. I think they're more prone to do it nowadays. And then there'll be some things we've added expansions. Like we have a song called Another Is Waiting, and there's like a kind of a chord progression breakdown that gets kind of jammy. And that came post Garcia stuff or around that same time. So I think that influence was in there.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And I saw a video. I was looking around. And I saw that you took your cello player Joe to Fare Thee Well, and that's quite a departure for him. He's totally not from this realm of music. What was that like?
It was so good. I'm so glad we got to do. First, I'm glad we got to go, and it was kind of a thing where it was last minute. Getting tickets was hard.
Yeah,
and there's a whole story of getting him the ticket. Because he said like the day before, he's like, I think I want to go to that, and so we had to go through some machinations to get tickets to get him a ticket. And it was like that's how those experiences come together, right? Like you can never imagine how that experience will come together, and it did. He just loved it, and I'm glad he got to get that experience.
You're in your happy place at that point. You're getting to go back to this, and you're taking someone with you who's never seen anything like that, and it's 70,000 people.
70,000 people. Yeah.
Did that? Do you feel like did that change his perspective on the whole rock and roll, the jam band thing?
He grew up classical music. Like he wasn't listening to rock and roll when he was a teenager. He wasn't. I mean, he came into all that stuff in college at the earliest, and a lot of it he's learned with us. And so yeah, that was a mind-blowing experience for him. Yeah, it was great.
So beautiful, man.
Never forget it.
Let's talk about songwriting for a minute. Sure. You released a solo album in 2006, and you've got credits all over the Avett catalog. I know this probably take up the rest of our time, which I hope it doesn't, because I got more I want to ask you. But your impressions of Hunter and Barlow.
Oh, gee whiz, man. I mean,
the short version.
the short version is Hunter is the classic American song. He is in the songbook. Like if you like bluegrass music, or it's like bluegrass music, I would say, folk music, somewhere where they meet, old time music, there is this classic songbook, right? I'm not saying it's like an official book, but there is like what we would call the American songbook.
Yes.
And going from Stephen Foster in the 19th century, he wrote I Dream of Jeannie with the light brown hair, and Hard Times, and these songs that we just, again, you don't know. You watch Bugs Bunny cartoons and you're introduced to them,
right?
So they were around in the 40s or 50s or whatever it was, but they were around in the 1850s, and beyond. But and then through to the early 20th century and jazz, early American jazz, and there is this like American songbook, and Hunter is in that. He wrote in those pages. He's clearly influenced by that in his writing. What's interesting about Barlow is his biography is, there's John Barlow with the Grateful Dead. There's John Barlow, internet pioneer.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
And if I would say to your listeners, pick up a book called These Truths by Jill Lepore, and you will get a American history from Columbus to Trump. And you get 2/3, maybe a little further in that book, and John Perry Barlow, internet pioneer, who wrote the Declaration of Digital Independence, the World Wide Web Declaration of Independence, he plays a big part with Newt Gingrich in the internet that we have today and all that's going on. And I don't know that he intended it to be like it is, but he's one of the forefathers of the digital age. And it's
Yeah.
just it's so crazy. It's insane. So, but his songs, they're different than Hunter's. And they're sometimes, I mean, like Throwing Stones is an example, where you have just the historical knowledge, with the activism, and then with the color of the color of the music. It's just insane. They're just very different. Sometimes you get into your Barlow moods, and it's more brooding, and it's more the individual against the world kind of thing. Black-throated Wind, thinking of um, Hell in a Bucket, right? That's him. A lot of those Bobby songs is just a different.
Right.
I don't know, but I do beg of your listeners to study his biography. And I think he wrote a book maybe before he passed, or there's a book about him that came out. So really study Barlow, because he's a really interesting figure.
Right on. Where am I going to go? I've only got a few minutes. All right. In my opinion, my personal opinion, one of the coolest things about our job as musicians is our collaboration with other artists. And for me personally, many of them have been with heroes of mine. How did I how did I get here moments? These, oh my God. And you guys, the Avits, have had numerous opportunities to collaborate with Bobby. How did that come about, first of all?
We were playing Warren Haynes's festival.
Mountain Jam.
Mountain Jam.
Yeah.
And he was playing. And he liked us. And I don't know who made the ask. Maybe Paul Lohr, maybe our booking agent. But it was communications were passed between camps, and he said he'd be happy to do something. And we did Merle Haggard's California Blues, which was so perfect. Like, that's where we meet.
Right. Sure.
That's where we meet. I think he was really excited to do that with us. I think he was really like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a dead song. Let's go do something different. Yeah.
And then we did Race Is On.
Nice.
And maybe we did one more. And he played Go to Sleep with us, our song Go to Sleep. So that might have been our first. I might be leaving one out, but that was our first experience together. And then the next one was Red Rocks, and we did Uncle John's Band.
I saw that video. It was awesome.
And we learned, again, that was like, for our camp, that was we got in the woodshed on that. And I think he was impressed that we got on the woodshed.
Right on.
That we put the time into it. And we did that, and we did, it was so awesome. We did Going Down the Road Feeling Bad, which we always did.
That was already in your song. Cool.
That was one that we always played, like going back to the earliest days, differently. And then we did something else. And then at, what's the big thing they do in Virginia? The big festival.
Lockin'.
Yeah. Pete's thing. So we did Lockin', and that was great because we did one of those trailer rehearsals where we got in one of those trailers, and he told these stories, and like, I don't know where it made him think about this story, but he told this great story. And then we did Masterpiece, which is another thing that we used to do.
One of my favorites. That's a song I could play every night and not get sick of it.
Me too. Too. And maybe we did Uncle John's for that too. Yeah, so it was great. These are the things that, like, they're not the record on the wall, like the gold record, and they're not the Grammy, and they're not like the high profile thing. But I'm convinced that these are the things that you're gonna that we'll carry with us, that will mean more I think, in the long run. They don't make or break your career, but they mean so much.
For sure. I mean, you can't see it, but this picture right back here, there's a bunch of them, but there's a picture back there. I mean, I live in St. Louis of me playing with Chuck Berry.
Oh
Now
my
that meant
gosh.
nothing. It was at a local bar.
But
I
it
sat,
meant everything.
but Chuck, exactly. But Chuck Berry sat in with my band, didn't tell us what we're doing, didn't tell us a key, just starts a song. That's something I will hold forever, all of those
Forever.
moments. So I'm sure that was amazing for you, the guys in the band, but for you
It was.
personally, it had to be
Yeah,
huge.
because I would remember walking outside Giant Stadium doing laps trying to get a ticket.
Right. And now here you are
And
in
I'm
this
right next to the guy.
alternative
He's singing on my mic.
Right. I saw in one of the videos you were playing fiddle on something, on one of the songs
Yeah.
that you guys did.
So he invited us at Red Rocks to come out. A few of us, and me and Joe. Was Tanya with us? Maybe Tanya was with us, our fiddle player now. And we came out and played on Franklin's Tower.
She was. There was two fiddles on stage. I saw
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
On the front. How cool, man.
And again, like the early days with the Avett Brothers on bass, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But it didn't matter.
But there it is. And now it's there for the whole world to see on YouTube, man.
God forbid.
Well, Bob, I can't think, if there's so much more I want to ask you, but I know you're pressed for time. But before I let you go, I do this with all my guests.
Okay.
You don't have to think too hard, just a quick lightning round of questions.
Okay, let's
all
do
right.
it.
First Grateful Dead show.
That was 92. That was Giant Stadium.
All right. Favorite Grateful Dead show. Doesn't have to be one you went to, just your favorite show.
No, but it was remember in 93, they did the 9 nights at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
I went to 3 of those. And so I went to like 2 and 3 and then like 6 or 7, the number 2 or 3, 6
right.
or 7. And they did the last one I went to, they did Saint of Circumstance and Lost Sailor singing Saint of Circumstance, and that was always my favorite.
Another one of my favorites to listen to and to play. That's a great one to play. Yes. Studio recordings or live recordings?
Oh man, I go back and forth. Like people trash the Grateful Dead studio recordings. They're not known for being these sonic achievements. Why? I don't get it. What did you expect? Like, again, and I think the Avett Brothers, we share this, where the live thing and this, it's like 2 different animals.
Right.
One is art, one is art in motion.
Beautiful.
They're 2 different things. So I love Go to Heaven. I love Shakedown Street. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No. No need to apologize.
Tweet at me, whatever. I like Built to Last. I enjoy listening to Built to Last. I mean, I haven't done it for a while.
I think a lot of the things people didn't dig was the overproduction. To them, to so many of these people, the Dead is what they learned on stage, and that's the sound. And then it's overproduced in their mind when they hear it on the studio versions.
And Blues for Allah is like this epic, right? But for some reason, that period of Go to Heaven and Shakedown Street and maybe Terrapin Station, those records, I love Wake of the Flood. Is that the name of that album with Here Comes Sunshine?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So I like they're just 2 different things.
All right. Well, the next question is going to put you on the spot. Which one of those is your favorite? What's your favorite Dead album?
Favorites don't exist. I just can't say. Maybe Terrapin Station. I don't know. What is today? Oh, it's Monday. Well, then it must be
right. Well, then you're never going to answer this next one because it's the Desert Island album, your favorite non-Grateful Dead album. The one album you take with you if you're on a dead. That one album you take with you to the desert island.
Might have to be Dylan.
All right.
It might have to be Blood on the Tracks or Desire.
All right. Some people can't answer. I appreciate that. And some people take minutes and minutes.
I can't, but it depends what day I'm stranded. So,
all right, well, today's Monday. So,
I'll say it's a Desire. I'll say it's Desire today.
First job,
bagging groceries at ShopRite in Ventnor, New Jersey.
Favorite color,
blue.
Favorite venue to play,
Red Rocks.
Standard answer. Everybody. It's impossible.
And I think it's becoming. I'm going to move off of that just because it's been so many years. I might have to start saying something else because I love the Greek in Berkeley as well.
There's that energy of Red Rocks though. And I watched your guys' little documentary about your Red Rocks experience.
Amazing.
And that's everybody. You know, I'm watching you walk in. I'm like, I had that experience when I walked in the same spot. There's just something about it. Best city for a day off.
Burlington, Vermont was nice. Spent a nice day off there. Kansas City's great.
Yeah.
Like we'll if we're in that part of the country and we've got a day off, and it roots well, we'll go to Kansas City. Great art museum in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Also enjoyed Portland, Oregon.
Also
Washington,
good.
D.C. A lot of friends in D.C.
Right. And anywhere with a good golf course. That's always a good one too.
See, that's that is what's happening now. Like that's changing because I'll wake up now. I look in the bus. I see here I'm at the venue. Where's my nearest golf course?
I do it every day, man. And in Burlington, there's a great one. So you got Burlington.
Tell me about that.
You got Vermont National there, so you're in good shape.
Rob, we need to come up with some kind of a club where we play golf together, obviously, but we get country clubs and private clubs to let us play golf when we're in their towns.
I always wear a golf hat.
Sometimes your own.
Wear a golf hat when you're not on stage, man. Now I'm out in public a lot more than you are when you're off stage because it's a little bit harder for you guys, but I'll be in a golf hat in a restaurant or something. Oh, you're a golfer? I'm like, yeah, well, I'm a member at Wingfoot. Can I take you out? Yes. You know, so I've become friends with a lot of fans who take me to their clubs to play golf.
This happened to me recently in Philadelphia, and it was amazing experience. I have done the thing where you call the place and you say, I'm in the Avett Brothers and we're playing at and can I come play? And they say, no, members only. And I don't know what the Avett Brothers are, who you are. And I really
don't have the balls to do it, man. People tell me to do that all the time. And
I've done it.
I don't have the balls. I can't do it.
Well, I've been hit down, so I won't do it again, probably.
First car.
It's Pontiac T1000.
Current car.
Chevy Colorado pickup truck.
Book you are reading. You're probably reading.
I'm reading a great book by Peter Canellis, and it is the life of John Marshall Harlan, who was a Supreme Court justice during the Gilded Age, and he's known as the Great Dissenter because he, at this period where all these laws were rolling back the rights for freed blacks, he was dissenting. He was like often the lone dissenter, and he would write these great dissents that became the map for the modern civil rights movement.
Wow, very cool. And any magazine subscriptions?
Christianity Today. I have subscribed to Relics. I don't currently. And that's it. Yeah, that's it.
And as we start getting back to normal, and we've been going up and down, we're getting towards normal, we're backing up. We're getting towards normal, we're backing up. Once this is all over, what's the one thing you are looking most forward to with this, with the light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, I don't eat inside. We don't eat inside. Like I'll eat because my daughter, she's a cancer survivor, 3-time cancer survivor. And so we'll eat outside. And I miss just it being raining out and being able to go into a restaurant. And I know many people are eating inside, and I'm triple vaxxed. I got my booster last week, and I still will not eat a meal inside. I don't feel comfortable doing that, and I miss my wife and I going on a date, going inside somewhere and having.
You're not alone. My wife has got severe asthma, and we have 2 children under 12 who aren't vaccinated yet. So we haven't eaten. And we just actually got my wife for the first time. I think we finally went and sat outside of the restaurant. Now I do that. But it was the first time the wife and the kids had done it just recently. Yeah. So we're getting there. Well, hey, I kept you a couple minutes late. I know you got somewhere to be, but I cannot thank you enough for doing this. This has been, we could talk for hours. Not even about you. We go to golf, man. Let's do it. I hope our paths cross and we can get out on a course and have a good talk and play some golf together.
If we see our paths crossing, let's make this happen. Let's go out there and hack 18.
That is the key word there, man. Hack. All right, folks. That was Bob Crawford from the Avett Brothers. Again, man, thank you for being here. Have a great day.
Pleasure. Best to you.